Bloodline 2.0 is off and running with Solo Sikoa as the new tribal chief. He enlisted Tama Tonga, and the storyline that is going to carry us through the summer on WWE television is now the biggest thing in the entire company, just like it was when Roman was the tribal chief. But who else are they going to add? And when are they going to add new members to the Bloodline? We may not have to wait long at all, as the rumor is this coming Friday, we will have the newest Fatu joining the Bloodline. We'll talk about it right here on Off the Script. Also, Goldberg calls AEW cheesy and declines to have his retirement match within All Elite Wrestling. And WWE releases Von Wagner. I still don't know what a fucking Von Wagner is, but here we are. Von Wagner released from WWE. I got the reasons why right here on Off the Script. And we will start with the Bloodline. Big name expected to make WWE TV debut within the next week. WWE is looking towards the future with new talent as the draft starts on Friday, with stars shifting to different brands, while NXT stars will be called up to the main roster. Also, the main roster stars could be moved back down to NXT, which I actually love that change for the draft this year. Jacob Fatu is the latest to join WWE after finishing up with MLW, where he was a top star, the longest reigning MLW champion in company history. He reportedly told others that he had signed with the promotion over WrestleMania weekend. This caused him to be pulled from a scheduled GCW appearance on that same weekend. He finished up with MLW in February with MLW Superfight, and it was reported back on April 9th that Fatu had been expected to start with WWE and be on television soon. Now, PW Insider is reporting the expectation in the company is that Fatu will debut on TV within the next week. It could be as soon as Friday with the start of the WWE Draft on SmackDown. The belief among sources in the creative circles is that he could debut as early as Friday and that he would be a regular on the main roster going forward. Now, we could see him on Friday. I think that would be a huge splash for the WWE Draft, or I had predicted, it did say within the next week. Now, within the next week, we're headed towards Backlash in France. Damian Priest is defending the World Heavyweight Championship against Jey Uso. And Jey Uso had already alluded just a week ago that more Bloodline members will probably be added, and we don't know who of the Bloodline will be added to what Solo Sikoa is creating. Now, I made a prediction that we could see Jacob Fatu debut at Backlash and cost Jey Uso the World Heavyweight Championship, just like Jey Uso has been cost all the other championships that he's gone after because of Jimmy Uso, the Tag Team Championships with Cody Rhodes, the Intercontinental Championship when he wrestled Gunther. So I think that is a possibility, but if they want to make a splash on Friday at the draft, Jacob Fatu showing up and doing God knows what, I don't know. Maybe Jay's going to be there. Maybe they go after Jay on Friday instead of going after Jay next Saturday at Backlash. I don't know. So we'll figure that out within the next week. Jacob Fatu is set to be on the main roster. He's not going to NXT, nor should he have to go to NXT. This is too big of a storyline to waste his talents away on Tuesday night. And when you see what Jacob Fatu is capable of, if they do not put any handcuffs on him, you guys are going to be blown away, man. The Samoan Werewolf is on WWE television, and I usually throw Game Changer around. Clearly, Tony Khan has let us down. Game Changer. You can talk about Ospreay. You could talk about Mercedes. You could talk about Okada. When you get someone like this, and you physically see what they can do at his size on national television with WWE, telling you guys right now, man, you're going to have a favorite new Samoan in the Bloodline. Let me tell you this right now. Bill Goldberg. Bill Goldberg says there's not a chance that he works with AEW and he calls the product cheesy. Sure, Bill. Sure. AEW, out of all the places and all the people that you worked for, AEW is the most cheesiest, right? Yeah, that's great. Chest the cheater over here, you fucking geek. Goldberg. Fuck Bill Goldberg. Fans shouldn't expect to see Goldberg in AEW. Great. Nobody asked for Bill Goldberg in AEW anyway. The only one asking for Goldberg in AEW is Goldberg. Or Tony Khan. Goldberg last wrestled when he lost to Roman Reigns at the Elimination Chamber in 2022 before his contract with WWE ended later that year. Last year, Goldberg publicly talked about doing a four-city tour on his own, and then he would see what's next regarding a potential run in a major promotion after that. AEW President Tony Khan has stated several times in past interviews that he's keeping an eye on Goldberg. The former WWE and WCW star has also said in the past that the two sides have spoken. Now, while appearing on 93.7 The Ticket, the WWE Hall of Famer was asked if he had spoken to Tony Khan about a possible run. He says this, and I quote, "I've talked to Tony a number of times throughout the past. This is where you're going to get the most blunt answer you're going to get from me. The AEW product is too cheesy. The product is just too cheesy. It doesn't deserve to have whatever. Now you're really going to get me going." He was basically going to say the product doesn't deserve to have Bill Goldberg. Sure thing. You're really going to get me going, but if there was a comparable, viable option as a competitor that would allow me to still look myself in the mirror after I was a member of their roster, yeah, then it would be a consideration, but not a chance. Well, Goldberg, I don't know what you're thinking, bro. The pickings are slim right now in the U.S. market, man. It's either WWE or AEW, because you're certainly not going to TNA. You're not going to MLW. Maybe he shows up in GCW for all we fucking know. Is Lucha Underground still around? This guy is mental. Sure, Bill, AEW is cheesy. Is AEW cheesy in some aspects? Sure. Sure they are. But are they as cheesy or more cheesy than where you previously worked under the previous administrations in which you worked? I'm sure Eric Bischoff is getting off the cheesy card scot-free, right? I'm sure Vince McMahon is removing himself from the cheesy business scot-free, right? Give me a fucking break. Are you serious? What this means for the simpletons out there, Goldberg wants money. That's all he cares about. He don't give a fuck where he works. Tony signed Ospreay, Mercedes, Okada to mega money deals. You think Goldberg is coming in accepting anything less than what he's paying Mercedes? You gotta be out of your fucking mind. The Goldberg reason as to why he called AEW cheesy is because Tony Khan is not paying him enough cheese. That's the only reason. If Goldberg is making more than Mercedes and Ospreay combined, he had no problem coming in doing AEW and retiring in AEW. But here's the thing, Bill. Nobody gives a shit, and nobody wants you anywhere on national television at your age, in your shape, in your condition. Tell me when I am telling lies. Nobody gives a fuck. Why don't you go hole up in a garage somewhere, go grab some fucking tools, and work on your Mustangs? Seriously. Get out. Moving on. Von Wagner. WWE released several talents over the past week. Jinder Mahal, Sangha, Veer, Indus all gone. Xia Li, and Zion Quinn. Who? Listen, man, I have no idea. I think he's Samoan, part Australian, right? Who the fuck knows? He was drafted to Raw, though, right? Yeah. How many appearances did he make? One, if that. It was on Friday Night SmackDown. He got squashed by Braun Breaker in like 3 seconds. All these talents were released. Internally, the released talent were cited as budget cuts. As budget cuts are going to happen, especially with TKO. WWE's looking to sign Becky and Drew. They just signed Finn Balor to a new deal. They want to bring all this talent back. So obviously, cuts are going to need to be made. This talent was informed Friday evening. Fast forward to yesterday, and the news reached NXT. Von Wagner has been released. Yes, no more come Tuesday. Fightful followed up on the main roster status of Von Wagner at the end of the year after the longtime NXT talent was included in the WWE main roster draft last year because Vince McMahon had a hard-on for Von Wagner. In the draft, Wagner was included in the pool, but was listed not for Raw or SmackDown, but was listed as a free agent, only to quickly to return to NXT because Vince McMahon is a fucking psychopath. Wagner competed in one main roster match, which was a top contender battle royal in May, and then immediately returned back to NXT where he remained. Now, Fightful is told that there had been no main roster plans for Von Wagner at the time, at no fault of his own. Now, Zion Quinn also competed in that match and didn't appear in NXT or the main roster until the squash match, like I mentioned, to Braun Breaker in March on SmackDown. Now, Wagner had gotten looks ahead of WWE Raw on main event numerous times at the end of 2023, both times facing NXT talent. Fightful's told that there were never any significant creative plans on the main roster for either Zion Quinn or Von Wagner. It was also reiterated to Fightful by WWE sources that all of the releases that occurred were talent who had been with WWE for 5+ years and felt that the trajectory of the talent didn't match the experience level in the company in many cases. You know, it's funny. We heard a lot about Von Wagner when NXT 2.0 got started. I had no idea who the fuck he was. And when we watched that first episode of the relaunch of NXT, our minds were just blown with how awful everything looked, how awful everything came off. Von Wagner was in a fatal four-way for the NXT Championship that included Braun Breaker and Tommaso Ciampa, which Braun Breaker obviously won at that time. But I'm looking at Von Wagner, I'm like, who the fuck is this, and why haven't we heard or seen about him at all? And then we start hearing, oh, Vince is a big fan of Von Wagner. All through the pandemic, Vince is a big fan of Von Wagner. Meanwhile, we look at Von Wagner, we have no promo skills. His in-ring ability was okay at that time. It got better. He wasn't bad. He still needed a lot of work. But what Vince legitimately saw the next Adam Copeland in Von Wagner. First of all, the name is never going to get over like Edge. What the fuck is a Von Wagner? Who named him? First of all, he was dead to rights with the name. He didn't have any theme music. He didn't have any look. He was just a tall guy, 6'5", 250 pounds, blonde. And Vince had recollections and, dreams going back to the 80s. This guy is something out of an 80s wrestling magazine. This is the look of a guy I would have pushed 30 years ago, 40 years ago. How is that going to translate to WWE TV right now, where character is key, talking and promo ability is key, charisma is key? He didn't have any of this. I don't mean that in a bad way, but you want somebody to be the next main event of WrestleMania, it certainly isn't going to come from someone like Von Wagner with none of these abilities. You wasted 5 years on Von Wagner. You wasted 5 years on Zion Quinn. You wasted 7 years on Xia Li. I mean, at some point, yeah, it gets back to the talent. It's ultimately on the talent. But what is the company doing to put these men and women in positions to maybe see if they got it or they don't? What has Von Wagner done in front of an audience? Nothing. What has Zion Quinn done in front of an audience? Nothing. What has Xia Li done in front of an audience? Nothing. You barely gave them an opportunity. But at the end of the day, it ultimately comes back to them. Did WWE see exactly what I'm talking about early on? Why continue the investment? Why continue to waste resources into this talent if you know right then and there that they're not going to materialize into anything you want to use on television? So then they end up being budget cut, and WWE clears payroll so that they can bring back and re-sign the talent that they do want. And then everybody fucking bitches and moans and cries on social media about budget cuts. People that have no idea of how a business is run. And we are in this position now with Von Wagner and Xia Li and Zion Quinn and Jinder Mahal. I'm sorry. I've never seen anything in Von Wagner anyway, but to be fair, how many true opportunities has he had to get over? How many true opportunities from management has he been given? Nothing. So who knows what he's capable of? Who knows what the man was going to achieve if he never gave or was never given the opportunity to go out there and get it. I don't know. Listen, it's the way of WWE. For all I know, the releases now are a little bit more humanized. They're a little bit more caring. They're not like Vince where they just look at a piece of paper and get rid of him and then goodbye. The releases apparently in the news are done in a much more respectful way. So the idea behind the releases is it's a little bit more normalized, not overly aggressive like what Vince McMahon used to do. So it's going to continue to happen. And I don't know why anybody gets upset. It happens in every form of business. If you don't have any need for somebody, if you don't like their ability, you go out and replace them with something and someone that's going to get the job done the way you want it. Von Wagner will be fine. If he wants to continue to wrestle, there are other opportunities for him to go out there and prove WWE wrong. Now, that is his priority. A TNA would be a welcome addition for a Von Wagner. He'd get the learning tree under TNA, develop a character, develop some charisma, get some promo skills, show what you could do in the ring, and prove them wrong. This is not the end of the road. Sometimes it's not the end of the road. Sometimes they go and make themselves into a star, and then WWE wants them back even more so after they made themselves into a star somewhere else. So that's going to be a fun ride if he wants to continue on that path. We'll see what happens with Von Wagner. Guys, thank you very much for all your support. Tonight, it's a big night. I got my guy, Sir Wilkins, from the Jobber Tears podcast. He will be the guest host tonight on Tuesday Night Titans episode number 45. So make sure you guys tune in tonight, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. It should be a rowdy one for sure, as we are embarking on the new era of TNT. Follow me on social media for all the latest updates at JD from NY206. Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Cameo. Hit that subscribe button down below. Turn on the bell for notifications and go check out all the other content that you might have missed this past weekend, including the AEW Dynasty post on Sunday night and the Monday Night Raw post show on Monday, just from last night, where Becky Lynch won the Women's World Championship in that over-the-top comical battle royal. So make sure you guys go check all that stuff out. And I will see you tonight on Tuesday Night Titans with my guy, Sir Wilkins, for episode 45 right here on Off the Script. I'll see you guys later.